Hello and welcome to my breakdown of the different Winfield Rifle variants. We're going to be looking at the three main rifles and some of the variants in this video. So we've got firstly the Winfield M1873C, the Winfield M1873, the non-compact version, and the Winfield M1876 Centennial. Okay, so three very different or very similar rifles, but with some various different variations in them. So just going through, firstly we've got the M1873, the two variants there, the compact version and the regular one. These are both small ammunition, light ammunition. The main differences between these two guns is that the regular version has an increased magazine size, so it's got 15 plus 1 in the chamber, where the C has 7 plus 1 in the chamber. In terms of differences in the stats, the main difference is the cycle, or the rate per fire, rate per minute. The regular Winfield does 31 rounds per minute, where the compact does 29 rounds per minute. It really is not that much slower, it's barely noticeable, and the reload time is a lot slower on the regular Winfield, just because you have so many more bullets that you can load in. Also the regular Winfield has slightly less vertical recoil compared to the C. And then we've got Centennial. So Centennial's a medium ammo rifle. So the Centennial actually packs a harder punch. It does more damage. It has a higher effective range at 180 meters compared to the 151 meters of the regular Winfield. It has a much slower rounds per minute, so it's only doing 23 rounds per minute, but as I say, it hits harder, so there is that trade-off there, with how many rounds you're firing and how much damage you're doing. It's got a wider spread at 27.5 compared to the regular Winfield's 17.5, and it's got a much higher muzzle velocity at 600 meters per second, which is a really good muzzle velocity. 400 is around average for the most part, but 600 meters per second is fast. It is a really fast muzzle velocity. So you can really do a good job at not having to lead too much depending on range and all that kind of thing. It does, however, kick harder, so the vertical recoil is much greater than the regular Winfield, but that is of course because it packs more of a punch. So let's first have a look at the M1873C and the different variants that we have. So we have a marksman and a silencer of the main weapon. These are the first two variants. Now the marksman, it's a marksman scope, so obviously it's used for long range. You can see that the cycle time for the bullet is slightly increased by like a fraction of a second. And the spread from hipfire is also wider. However, the control that you have while in scoped is better at the 69 over apart from instead of the 77. So just means that it's better when you are in that scope, which obviously marksman scope, that makes sense. Over to the silencer. Now, the silencer has a shorter effective range and a slower bullet velocity. So you can see the regular version has 400 meters per second. The silenced one has 250 meters per second. All silencers are pretty much going to have a slower muzzle velocity. This just means that typically you're going to be using the silencer at a much shorter range compared to the regular weapon, because of how slow the bullets come out of the gun. It has a wider spread as well, so if you're using levering, you know, you're going to get a wider spread with the silencer, and the aim down sights control is a lot worse than the regular weapon. But also we have the Vandal version, so this is a 2-slot version rather than the regular 3-slot. So the Vandal is, you know, not quite as good as the C, obviously. So you've got a lot of cutback stats there. You know, it's slightly less powerful, it's got a slightly less effective range, it does less bullets per minute, it's got a worse handling, it's got a bigger spread, the recoil is more. It does, however, have a faster reload speed, which is good. And then a 370 meters per second muzzle velocity, which isn't that much worse than the regular. So the Vandal is actually a relatively good option for a medium slot if you have a 2-slot to fill. And it does the role of the you know, of the M1873C in a shorter, in a smaller kind of space, pretty effectively. And that one has a couple of variants as well. We've got the Deadeye, which gives you a Deadeye scope, and it just means that the spread from hip fire is a lot worse at that 50 stat. And then you've got the Striker as well, which obviously gives melee bonuses, and also just slightly slows down the reloads or the cycle time. But again, it's not by much at all. Now into the regular Winfield. So again, 4 different variants here. We've got the Aperture, the Musket Bayonet, the Swift, and the Talon. So the Aperture gives it an aperture sight, increases handling. It does have it's an interesting sight. I don't particularly like Aperture myself. However, I suggest using it, playing with it, and seeing if you like it. You can turn the aperture on and off, which can be really useful. Again, personally, I don't like it. I don't like the blurriness. I find it blocks a lot of my sight, but that's a personal preference. I suggest you try it and find out and see how it goes for you. Then you've got the Musket Bayonet, which sticks a big pointy thing at the end of the gun. This obviously gives increased melee damage if you use it in melee, and it really does hit pretty hard, to be honest. It is a increased rounds per minute, but the cycle time is slightly slower, and it has a better recoil because you've got that weighted end that's just stopping it from recoiling too much. We've then got the Swift. So the Swift, essentially what it does, it speeds up the reload time significantly. It cuts it in half, so it makes it much faster to reload, but it also increases the rounds per minute that you can fire. Super useful. Swift, personally, I think is my favorite variant of this gun. I think it's really powerful. Just the really quick reload and the rounds per minute, you know, being able to fire much faster is great, because it just means you can dispatch people much quicker. And then finally we've got the Talon. So the Talon has a big spiky aggressive looking thing on the end of the gun, which obviously is going to increase, it basically turns it into an axe. It's going to increase damage massively. The animation to get it to that point, though, does feel a little bit slow and sluggish compared to, say, using the Musket Bayonet, which obviously has that stabbing motion where you've got to flip the Talon over, and it's a little bit slower to get into the melee position. So, you know, if you're going to choose the Talon over the Bayonet, you must really be doing it because you like how it is used in that scenario, essentially. Again, personal preference, but for the most part, yeah. And finally we have the Winfield M1876 Centennial. And again, another 4 variants with this gun. For the main gun, we've got the sniper version and the trauma version. So the sniper one obviously gives it a sniper scope, much better handling down sights, bigger spread from hipfire, and a very slight increase in reload time. But it obviously gives you that sniper scope, which is, you know, a big change to how you're going to use that gun and how you're going to play with it. We've then got trauma. So the Centennial trauma puts a G clamp on the end of the gun, and you use it to whack people around the head. It's a blunt, gives blunt damage. If you find yourself needing to deal with blunt damage and you don't have a knuckle knife or dusters or anything to do that, then sure, take it. Personally, I don't know. I don't think it's really worth taking the trauma. I think it looks cool, but I think there's better options for you there. But don't let me stop you trying it out. We've then got the shorty. So this is a short version of the Centennial, and essentially it's a 2-slot. So it fills 2 slots, and it's similar to the Vandal from the Winfield C. So, you know, slightly less power, slightly less damage, slightly less effective range, slightly less muzzle velocity, although the muzzle velocity for the shorty is still 540 meters per second, which is still a really good muzzle velocity. Like, that's still pretty quick. And then we've also got the shorty silencer, which is a silenced version of the shorty, a 2-slot silencer, which is insane. Less effective range, and the muzzle velocity is 390 meters per second, but 390 meters per second, that is not far behind the 400 meters per second of the regular Winfield. So if you're used to that and the and that sort of muzzle velocity, the shorty silencer is gonna feel very natural to you. Because it's going to feel like you're playing with a regular Winfield with a silencer on the end, and it's taken up a 2-slot. Sure, it's going to have some slightly more recoil from the shorty-ness of it, and not do as much damage, etc. But I think the shorty silencer in the Centennial family is kind of one of the kings here. And is definitely something to highlight in this list. So it's time to jump into some games. Now, the traits you're going to want to be using for the Winfield is the levering and the iron repeater. Okay, so levering allows you to basically spam hip fire, and you basically lever your weapon, and it's kind of similar to fanning with pistols. And you fan your weapon. So it only really works on Winfield weapons that have the levering action to them. And then the the iron repeater, which allows you to stay in iron sights of iron sighted levering weapons. Obviously, this would change if you're using a marksman or something else. So yeah, we are using the standard Winfield in this game, and you can see obviously I'm heading on over to someone who's decided to just start shooting right at the beginning of the game. So you can see I'm staying in iron sights there because I've got the iron repeater. Got a few good shots, but nothing that kills, so I just switched to my pistol as it's a little bit closer range. Yeah, I somehow lost him, but hey, got the kill there. So yeah, into the boss area, and it's nice and red for me. So time to find our other hunters. Now this was the last hour of the Tide of Shadows event. So we had the last remaining event things going on. So you can hear the altar there going off nice and loud, warning me that someone's around. Now I believe they were actually just under the roof here. So I didn't see them. Not until they set off the horse anyway. So what is worth knowing is that, you know, the standard compact bullet can get through thin bits of wall like that. Wooden wall. It can penetrate. So, you know, if you're lucky, you can get a nice little shot there. That works quite well. My gun was clearly sticking out here. The great thing is about this gun, it's just solid, it's just reliable. You know, you can get some good shots off. You know, they're not the strongest rounds in the world, but you can be pretty consistent with the Winfield. I believe we both tried to circle around on each other here. Little poke, but ready to fall back if I'm getting low on health. I kind of took a bit of a wild guess. I thought he might have been trying to pick up a friend or something. I wasn't 100% sure if that guy was solo after a little while. But yeah, next person then decides to enter the fray. Don't quite see him on the roof straight away when I turn around. Yeah, you can see it just feels reliable. No, it's very much point and shoot, and you're gonna be okay. This is it's after I've got the bounty, and the other bounty decided to come down. So I welcomed him with open arms. And a nice little headshot. I was pretty pleased with that shot, I won't lie. Thanks for the bounty. So yeah, that was the first game. Into the second game. So this time we were using the Winfield with the Talon. So a couple of shots, and I saw him sneaking up through this bush. Right there. Now he threw a decoy. And then his friend was confused by the decoy. It was an odd situation, but I decided to chase after him with the Talon. with not quite any luck there, so I was sure I backed out and started aiming. Saw him coming at me, so I got my Talon ready again, and there we go. A nice little Talon kill. Just cleanly done. The Talon is actually really good for clearing out mobs, or at least the larger mobs, so you know, like armoured and things like that. And it's great against bosses as well, because it is essentially an axe. It's just a bit slow for what I'd call your grunts, and if you're like trying to quickly switch to it to then, you know, pull out the Talon and to then get a quick melee kill, you know, it's not a quick melee weapon, it's more like an ambush melee weapon. You know, you're not going to get anyone mid-firefight really with it, just because of how long it takes to, you know, wind up and hold in the right position. So I snuck into the bounty arena here, into the barn. It's banishing. No idea where the people are, but then I think I do see. Yeah, he sneaks out. Yeah, just not paying any attention. They clearly didn't hear me come in. And there was two of them. In the end, I grabbed the... he was just standing at the top of the stairs. I think he was expecting me to run up and get it. But... you know, I had serpents, so I figured, why not? I wasn't sure if, I didn't think he was in the room necessarily. I kind of thought he might be like outside, or it might be a second person. Just right at the top there. The beams won't let you penetrate. He must have just been in cover to allow that not to kill him. But he got a lucky headshot with fanning, and I got a lucky kill with levering. Yeah, third game, and now in this one we are using, I believe, the Centennial shorty. No, we're still using the Winfield, and this is the Swift. Setting off crows, starting hitting stuff. It gave me a chance to set up a little ambush here. And also this is after the event is now gone, so all the event perks and all of that are now not relevant if you're watching it new. So yeah, that's the scrap beak banish. I'd say the Talon worked really well with that. Not the Talon. The Talon works really well for it. I'm using throwing axes. But yeah, nice. Spotted them out the window. Got the burn on them. So it's the Winfield's just so great for that quick follow-up second, third tap. Yeah, it turns out there's someone trying to serpent it from outside, and I was like, ah, you really want to do that? 'Cause that's cheeky. I mean, I always love getting a good frag kill. Yeah, I really like the Swift. I think the Swift is definitely my favourite, as I mentioned before. It's just the speed of the reload and the slightly faster bullet cycle time. It just feels good. So overall, you know, I think the entire series of Winfield guns are really solid guns. You are going to have a really good time if you pick any of these. Typically, obviously, the main Winfields, the light ammo ones, the small ammo ones, are going to fire faster. They're not going to do as much damage, but I think they're going to feel a little bit more agile to play with over the Centennial, which is just a little bit slower. It hits harder though, but you're not going to have as much fun with things like levering with the Centennial, where you're going to have a great time with levering with the with the standard standard 2. So yeah, try them out, see how you feel see how you get on with them, and yeah, thank you for watching. If you liked this, please leave a like. Let me know what your favourite Winfield rifle is, and yeah, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and yeah, let me know. I've tried something new with this video. Let me know how you found it, and yeah, until next time, may your hunts be bountiful.